Think you could just run a few extra miles to burn off that pizza or that donut or all those bagels? I got some news for you. You can't outrun a bad diet. And today I'm going to show you exactly why, backed by science and real world examples, plus what you need to do if you want real results if you're trying to lose weight or get healthy. So let's dive in. So for guys who don't know who I am, my name is Dr. Ray Peralta. I'm a physical therapist and run coach and exercise physiologist. And I've been in the field of performance, injury rehab for almost the past 10 years now. And a lot of people believe that running more means you can eat whatever you want, right? Especially when you hear some figures like, oh, all you have to do to burn 1 pound of fat is run 35 miles a week, right? Sounds simple. And it's true that many marathon runners can hit that mileage doing their training. But here's the catch. If you're eating more than you burn, you're not losing weight, period. So let's use a real world example. Let's say let's take a person here. We'll call him Larry. Larry's 5'10", weighs 240 pounds, and his maintenance calorie would be about 2,500 calories a day. For Larry to lose about a pound a week, he would need to create a deficit. So a daily deficit of at least minus 500 calories, which would be add up to 3,500 calories 7 days per week, right, for a 1 pound of fat loss week. Or let's say they were Larry's to try to do that just through exercise, right? Kept his diet the same, but try to do it through exercise. So just running 3 miles. So since Larry's 240 pounds, running 3 miles would burn about 500 calories. And let's say he did that every day, he would, in theory, lose 1 pound a week, right? He's creating a 500 calorie deficit because he's a bigger individual and he's running every day 3 miles. Sounds great, right? He just has to run. But if he's refueling by eating right back those 500 calories right now, because a lot of times is what a lot of runners are guilty of, they'll refuel and just kind of make up whatever calories they burn from their exercise. Guess what? You're right back at maintenance, no fat loss, right? Because obviously, yes, running increases your appetite, so now you get hungry again. And then if you're eating junk food, your kind of cravings for food, your like portion controls like off the chain. Oftentimes, many people overeat, and then they're not losing any weight at all. They're just staying at like a maintenance. Their body just stays at the status quo. And it's not just common sense, it's backed by science too. There's actually a study at British Journal of Sports Medicine that looked over 346,000 people in 2022. And the research found that yes, regular exercise can lower your risk of death. However, a high quality diet also lowers your risk. But the real magic is when you combine both of them, exercise and a healthy quality diet, right? You just can't go, oh, I'm just going to try to eat low calories and eat a bunch of Twinkies. You probably heard like the Twinkie diet or whatever. Thing is, long term, that's not beneficial. Going to lose out on nutrients, and it's not good for long term health. Can you get away with a caloric deficit with like junk food when you're really young? Yeah, but that's not when you're going to be a smaller, weaker version of yourself because you're going to lose muscle and bone mass while you're trying to run with like a crappy diet. Right. So physical activity does not completely offset the harm of a poor diet, especially if it's lacking nutrients. And this definitely catches up. Sure, you might be thinking, oh, but 20-year-olds get away with eating like cookies and, chocolate milk and all these shakes and stuff or candy. But talk to them when they're in their 40s, their 50s and 60s. So they may even look like they're normal weight, but in reality, they're like skinny fat where they may have abdominal fat or even have like markers for like heart disease because they eat a junk food diet. And unfortunately, this does happen, especially it starts catching up as in your 50s, 60s. So don't think that you could continue to eat junk food diet and not catch up with you just because you're a runner. So you need both exercise and quality diet. So what's the better strategy? Like I just said, exercise and a quality diet. So diet and exercise working together. So yes, you want to create a caloric deficit, right? Calories and calories do matter. You don't have to, track it to the calorie because that method is fairly pretty inaccurate, but we'll give you the general guidelines. Essentially, you want to, if you're trying to lose a pound a week, that would be like a 500 calorie deficit per day. So you could do like 250 calories less from eating and then 250 calories burned through training. And together, that's 500 calorie deficit. So at the end of the week, you burn about 1 pound of fat loss per week or a little bit more, depending on, what other physical activity things you're doing or any other dietary changes you're making, any change to your diet. But here's a critical piece a lot of people miss is that protein is very important. See, when you're losing weight, you don't just want to become a smaller, weaker version of yourself. And then this is what happens when you're running, because running is not a muscle building activity, right? Running is an endurance activity, aerobic activity. So running, alone can be good for general fitness, heart health, mental health, but it's not going to build muscle. So then as you're running, you're actually starting to lose muscle. It's actually catabolic. Actually, that's a reason you don't see bodybuilders doing a lot of cardio, because it's actually not beneficial for muscle mass. You're going to have to one, make sure you want to hold on to your strength and muscle by eating enough protein. And unfortunately, runners don't know this, especially if you're trying to lose weight. You're thinking you just want to eat less of everything. But in fact, you want to maintain protein. So for protein, it's about 0.65 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. For example, if you're 200 pounds, then you need anywhere from 130 to 200 grams of protein per day. And this is even more important when you're trying to lose weight, so you don't start losing muscle or bone tissue, which would put you at risk for injury, actually, bone stress injury, because your body's actually getting weaker by not having enough protein. So a quick tip, you don't have to be measuring, getting a scale out. You just use your hand, right? So 1 palm size of protein, which fits about the palm of your hand, is about 25 grams of protein. Think about like a piece of chicken, a breast, or a lean steak, something that fits in the palm of your hand. Or if you're plant-based, tofu, right? You do tofu or tempeh. So aim for 5 to 8 pounds of protein per day. For the 200-pound person example here. Now, if you're a little smaller or a little heavy or a little bigger, you got to adjust the portions based, again, on that formula, 0.65 to 1 gram per pound of body weight for protein. So then what other things do you want to do to actually lose weight with that? You actually want to adjust your carbs or fats. No, I'm not saying you have to go completely no carb. I'm not saying to do a ketogenic diet, but you have to reduce it a little bit because you have to create a caloric deficit, right? You just can't eat everything exactly the same. You're just going to be at maintenance if you do the same thing, right? So to adjust that, one of the most straightforward ways is carbs, because unfortunately a lot of people just overindulge with carbs, those simple sugars, right? Yes, runners do need some carbs, but if you're eating a bunch of snacks because, oh, you're running, that's a common mistake that a lot of runners make, right? They start like, oh, I'm just going to eat, I heard you have to eat pasta, right? Yes, if it's race day, it's the day before the marathon, you can have pasta. But if you're just someone who's just running casual 5Ks and stuff, like running 3-mile runs here and there, and you're just training for 5 and 10Ks, overindulging in bowls of pasta and bagels and these processed refined carbs is not going to be conducive to you long term. Can you get away with it when you're in your 20s? Sure, maybe. But if you're trying to lose weight, it's going to be counterproductive. And when you're trying to lose weight, it's actually better if you start removing some of those processed refined carbs. So removing like 3 cupped handfuls of carbs a day, for example, removing like a cupped handful of pasta or white rice or bread or bagel, right? You can still have carbs, but just eat a little less of those refined processed carbs. Monitor your progress for 2 weeks, right? Is the scale going down? Are you losing body fat? Ideally, you're measuring your body fat percentage in addition to your weight. But if you're still stuck, you can lower, then maybe cut about a little bit of fat intake. So maybe you remove like 2 or 3 thumbs. Serving of fat is usually like a thumb. Think about like peanut butter, a couple slivers of avocado there. So you remove 2 or 3 thumb-sized servings per day. And remember, weight loss isn't linear. You may have fluctuations, but that's why you're measuring over 2 weeks, not day to day. And if you're still kind of plateauing, you may have to make further adjustments and really be honest with yourself, because sometimes people think they're eating healthy, but they're just eating way too much food. Like, oh, I'm following a Mediterranean diet. I'm having fruits, vegetables, and salmon, but then they're still eating a lot of big servings of either grains or because you can overeat fruit as well, just because fruit is healthy. Or veggies, like, oh, it's potatoes. Yes, you can overeat potatoes, right? It's just because it's technically a starch or a vegetable, it's a starchy vegetable, you can overeat it. So you still want to make sure that's within the portions that you need. And if you're still plateauing, obviously go check with a doctor. Sometimes there are people with medical conditions, either thyroid conditions that affects their metabolism or hormonal things. But that's a separate issue. And I find the majority of people, it's really just a portion control, aside from any medical issues that are causing their inability to lose weight. And then the other thing you want to do is pair running with strength training. So you see a lot of runners will think they're, oh, just going to run alone, so I'm going to outrun a bad diet. But in fact, one, you want to clean up your diet, not try to get away with having a junk food diet. Again, things in moderation, but you also want to do strength training. So strength training is a great tool to help you preserve your muscle mass while you're trying to go on a weight loss journey, and can improve your running performance and help prevent risk of running related injuries. Same for at least 2 full body strength workouts per week. The reason I like full body, because it's time efficient, especially if you do single sets of failure, single sets of fatigue. So you do a full body routine, single sets of failure. And so only it should take you about 30 minutes or so. And then you could pair it with a run. So you do the strength and the run, you get your both workouts done without having to make separate trips to the gym or have completely separate days. This is going to help you maintain muscle and build while you're losing weight, and also improves keeps your metabolism kind of revved up higher, so it improves your running economy. And so that way you're not becoming a smaller, weaker version of yourself, because now you have the muscle with you're keeping your protein intake high and also doing strength training. So one of the major pitfalls for runners, again, is that overindulgence, because a lot of people get into it and like, oh, I could just eat all the carbs I want. Carbs, carbs, carbs. Again, carbs are important. But if you're trying to lose weight and you're overeating carbs, either you're maintaining or you may even actually start gaining weight, which is, I'm sure you probably don't want that. All right, so these are the most common mistakes that a lot of runners make, is that they're thinking, okay, I'm just gonna eat all the processed carbs. I hear pasta is good and bagels, all the bagels and all the donuts. But if you're trying to lose weight, these refined sugars are going to hold you back. And then long term, they get stored as fat and can even lead to like buildup of plaques in your arteries and stuff that leads to heart disease. And even if you're not overweight, you're like, oh, but I'm normal weight. It'll catch up to you, people in their 50s and 60s, even though they look normal weight. But if they eat junk food diet, it does catches up. The arteries get clogged up. You can even be diabetic and still look normal weight just because you're eating lots and lots of junk food. So running alone is not going to protect you, right, if your diet is working against you. So again, running can definitely boost your calorie burn and can improve your cardiovascular health. But nutrition, actually, you need both. You need diet and exercise, right? And nutrition is actually going to, it's clean fuel, right? Because if you put nutrition garbage in, garbage out. So if you want to perform at your best and be healthy, put clean fuel in your body, right? Healthy grains, fruits, and vegetables. And obviously proportionate to your goals, whether it's to maintain weight or if you're trying to lose weight, in this case, it has to be at a caloric deficit. And if you try to just run without fixing your diet, again, it's like trying to take water out of a sinking ship with a spoon. You have to patch the hole first, and the diet is your patch. And a quick reminder, be mindful not to overfuel while you're running, because that's, again, the most common mistake is like, okay, I'm running now, I'm overeating, overfueling. All right, so, and you don't want to be like, oh, I'm just going to drink lots of sports drinks because I'm running, right? Again, that's a lot of times sports drinks are high in calories or like these simple sugars. That's if you're having these cravings, oftentimes because you're not eating enough protein. If you need enough protein, it's going to help minimize these cravings. And if you need to snack, I recommend sticking to like vegetables or fruits, or like try to do the healthiest versions of foods you can find. That way you're not like resorting to junk foods and processed foods. Yes, every now and then you can have bagels and stuff, but this is once you're already out of, especially if you're trying to lose weight, I tell people eliminate before you moderate, right? Everyone's like, oh, everything in moderation, but I recommend if you're trying to lose weight, eliminate before you moderate, because it's oftentimes way too easy to overindulge, right? Eating all the bagels and all the pasta. If you're trying to lose weight, save that stuff once you get to a normal weight. Really try to eliminate those processed foods and just stick to healthy, whole, non-processed foods before you start trying to sneak in like junk foods or cheat meals. Again, it's really easy to like spiral out of control, especially if you're someone who's obese or like really overweight who's trying to lose weight. Again, this is a different story if you're normal weight and sure, you're training for a marathon, you got the marathon tomorrow. All right, so I hope this kind of covered how you can't outrun a bad diet. You need to do exercise. Yes, running is important, but you also need to do strength training and diet together to help you lose fat, perform better, and stay healthy. So watch out for those hidden dangers of trying to overeat all the carbs, because you hear runners need carbs, and trying to eat like a bunch of processed sugary foods and refined foods and all the cookies and snacks, especially if you're obese or overweight. Again, you hear these stories of these marathon runners or ultra marathon runners, like they're eating these cookies and cakes because, yes, they're already at a normal weight. However, that stuff does catch up to it. Talk to that same runner when they're in their 50s and 60s, right? Maybe they're getting away with it because they're in their 20s and 30s, but talk to them again when they're in the 60s, right? 70s. You're going to see their health's going to decline, especially if all they eat is junk food. Sometimes they'll advertise he's eating their sugary foods. Sure, they're doing it for the race day, but that's not how they're eating, on non-like events or competition days, right? They're not showing you that they're still eating wholesome foods, right? They tend to promote, oh, I'm eating these cookies and stuff because they actually are doing that big race. But outside the race, oftentimes eating fruits and vegetables, eating nutritious foods, right? So don't kind of get tricked by what you see on the social media and things like that. So if you're needing help with improving your performance, you're trying to improve your training, whether it's weight running or race refueling or your nutrition, trying to lose weight with running, you're like, hey, I'm stuck, I want to lose weight with running, Check out the free training. I'm gonna drop the link here. And if you really want like additional one-to-one help, I do offer one-to-one coaching. You can go through that link and we could book a call as well.